everyone. Today is Thursday, October 4, and this video is actually going to be titled Dirty Punjabi in relation to ethnic racism. And I came across this story about this really dirty Punjabi. This chick, this diversity chick, worked for police services. And what her role was to do was to test urine. So what this thing did was this thing actually took drugs and all kinds of additionals and actually falsified the testing related to urine samples. So subsequently, those samples were used to incarcerate, including a lot of blacks. Now, I learned about this from, there's a couple, for example, I guess you call discussion boards or whatever, and, the information came across, and I was like, you know what, that's fucking bullshit, man. And what makes it even worse is that this person took over 60,000 plus urine tests. So when I saw that, I said, you know what? I'm not going to censor anything. That's a fucking dirty Punjabi. There's so many elements of that. For example, ethnic racism. Why did that person feel the need to do that? Over 60,000 samples? And this person actually worked for police, some kind of police services. Now, how could you go through 60,000 samples and not even question any of them? And why are you actually trying to pin everything on this person, this one person? You got to look at sort of or you have to also look at the infrastructure that actually operates to encourage something like this. When I came across this situation, I was like, you know what, this is just fucked up. Straight up, it's fucked up. Because you know what, that dirty Punjabi has fucked up so many people's lives. Where are all those black males that have been incarcerated because of that piece of shit bitch? What happened to all those black families that have been stripped to pieces because of that shit bitch? And you know what makes it even worse? Is that this thing didn't even have a fucking degree. Didn't even have any qualifications. And this person is employed with the police services? For 9 years, this person was doing this. So what are some mechanisms of justice? I was like, you know what? She deserves the same thing as what she fucking did to all those people. These are 60,000 samples. 60,000. I said, you know what? Ethnic racism is not fucking funny. And that shit, it gotta stop. It gotta fucking stop. Some of you have these comments to say, oh, things should be censored. No, you don't censor anything, people. You say the way things are. That's fucking racism. But it's worse than racism. It's pathological. It's ethnic pathological. That's a person who has actually internalized the supremacy of the pathology of whiteness. But that person also operates in an infrastructure that let that person get away with 9 years of at least 60,000 samples. I'm so glad they caught this son of a bitch. But you know what? She's not the only one. Speaking from a global economic north context, I believe that example was in the United States. Canada, for example, it's a huge problem. They have these data files that they create on individuals, and they incarcerate them into jails. They incarcerate them in other ways. They medicalize them, and they don't even, the stupid thing about this is that they don't even question, how do people actually consent to the data records? So this is just one example to say, you know what, I'm just looking at these little cue card things. we have to question this thing called diversity. Quite frankly, I think it should be scrapped. And there's this really beautiful article that was actually written in the, it's called the Financial Post magazine in June of 2012. And it was actually by a person by the name of Suzanne Winthrob. And I'm just going to get the article here. I read it in this magazine. I thought, you know what, this is sensible. Because I personally don't want to be considered sort of qualified based on my biology or based on the color of my skin. I find that very fucking offensive. So the title of her article is actually Fairness Matters. Mandated diversity quotas won't make corporate board governance any better. Hiring the best and the right people for the job will. And basically this article goes into the ways to sort of start problematizing this thing called diversity. And, excuse me, this person says that, you know, we start out by, for example, on page 118, we start out, for example, of these ideas around women inspiring women. But what do we actually see when it comes to that? Because, for example, you have these promotions of, you know, for example, this woman or women breaking these glass ceilings, but then you still have women that are sort of trapped in that bottle, whatever the fuck that bottle is. And then you have an example like this, 60,000 at least urine samples that have been falsified. That's fucking dirty. That's really dirty. And so, you know, this article goes into the problem with biology-based equity, you know, on page 120. Another thing it raises is, for example, it was really nice to see some commentary from the European Union, what is called a Justice Commissioner, who said that, you know what, they're not a fan of diversity, they're not a fan of quotas. And it goes more into the reasoning around that. So the article actually finishes with a piece by a CEO that says, you know what, this tokenism thing needs to be addressed, because what you should actually be looking for is you should be actually looking for the gift of the individual. And, you know, it was really interesting to even try and process, you know, a reaction, I guess. I don't know if it's a reaction or just to let the emotions feel, let the emotions flow, let things just come out as they are. You don't censor anything. That's a fucking dirty Punjabi. And you know what? That's also fucking ethnic racism. How many of those cases that piece of shit thing worked on are related to black? Other ethnic groups have to talk about themselves. And what is the Punjabi community going to do about that piece of shit? Are they going to hail her for ethnic racism? How many of her own did she actually incarcerate? I'm going to actually put I guess on, for some reason you can't put the link to another video or something, but, you know, I was like, you know, I don't know if I even want to mention that person's name, because you know what? That's free fucking advertising for her. It's a fucking dirty Punjabi. Look for at least 60,000 urine samples that have been tampered with. And you know what? The weight of this data to actually destroy people's lives. How many of those people are actually still alive in their human life? This shit ain't funny, people. That's a fucking dirty piece of thing. And you know, I said to myself, I said, you know, if you're actually in a situation where you have to administer, you know, some kind of corrective, what would you do? And I said to myself, you know what, I couldn't even do what I would love to do. But there has to be some kind of other department or other mechanism that gets this thing and processes this thing. I could never do it myself, but I could certainly take punitive action against this thing and make sure this thing is actually dissolved out of the fucking universe. All those lives, all the innocent. Why? I'd like to hear your thoughts about this dirty Punjabi. This shit ain't funny. Thanks for watching.